Stellar Life, mission log number 246.
There's something that alleviates, it's like this pressure valve, and we alleviate all this pressure when we surrender into ourselves, because part of that surrender is this knowingness that I'm enough. It's this surrender into, gosh, I already am just by my intention, my love, the energy that I put out. I'm enough as I show up as a partner and a mom and a daughter. I can erase the perfectionist piece. I can surrender to that place in my heart that knows I'm showing up the best way I can in each moment. And I think when we do that too, we're better able to take care of ourselves because we're really in touch with exactly what you're just saying. Like, wow, I really need to go take a really long shower and take care of me. Because it's when we do that we're able to truly show up in a much more resourced way with the people that we love and with, humanity at large.
Welcome to Stellar Life Podcast. Get inspired and live out loud. From love, freedom, and success to having it all. Here's your host, coach, speaker, and shining star, Orion.
Roger, you're looking good.
Hello and welcome to Stellar Life Podcast. This is your host, Orion. My next guest is going to share with you how to ignite your inner spark, how to live a life of passion, and how, regardless of the external circumstances, you can still thrive, you can still be joyous, you can still be fulfilled and living in a state of freedom and inner joy. With over 30 years in personal development and mental health field, Stephanie James has a passion for fulfilling her personal mission to bring as much love and healing to the world as possible. Her soon-to-be-released film, When Sparks Ignite, is about challenges we all face and how those challenges can actually become the match point that ignites something amazing within us that can be our gift to the world. And from my own personal experience, I know that the hardest time in my life were my greatest gifts. And because I had to go through hardships and I had to deal with difficult situations and I found a way to rise, I became a much better person, almost like stepping into a more fulfilled, a greater, a more beautiful, a more expanded version of myself. And of course, you can too. And the power is within you. And wherever you are right now, this is a good episode just to remind you how incredible you are. Without further ado, on to the show.
2, 1, 0.
Hey, Stephanie, and welcome to Stellar Life Podcast. It's wonderful having you here. Thank you so much for being with us.
Orion, it is so wonderful to be here with you. Such a delight.
Yeah, thank you. Before we begin, I would like you to share with us a little bit about your passion and how did you discover your passion?
Oh, gosh, that's such a great question. I think that it's continually evolved throughout my life. I've always been a lover. I can remember being 4 years old and I was just in love with all my friends at Preschool Academy.
Wow.
And yes. I mean, I literally, I remember the first time I was probably 6 years old when I realized that there were negative people in the world. I had no idea. I just thought everybody loved each other because that was my experience of life, and being in touch with nature or other people. When I used to go into Preschool Academy, my memories are walking in the front door and literally the kids would be on the porch waiting for me to get there. And we all jump up and down and we were so excited to see each other. And so, I think that has been this internal fuse, if you will, that's run through my whole life. So I always had this sense of really, being love driven would be a really accurate statement. And so whether it was my career or my children or my spiritual path, whatever it was, I could put that passion into that. So the way that it's evolved, I would say, in the last, 4 years now, it's just ignited. It's become something that I've known really clearly the past almost 15 years now, that my true purpose in this world is to put as much love and healing into the world as possible. And the last 4 years, it's like that has just exploded as I've really learned how to surrender to the divine, to the flow of life, and to quit trying to make my agenda the agenda. It's just been amazing. The people, the film, the book, the transformational coaching, all the things that have, the speaking opportunities. It's like the whole world has just bloomed as I've gotten out of my own way.
Wow. How do we surrender? I feel like surrendering is sometimes it has negative connotations. People are like, oh, I'm going to surrender. That means I'm going to be passive and I'm going to be less than. But what is surrender for you, and how do we do that?
Yeah, surrender to me is actually, it takes amazing power to surrender because we're having to let go of our ego. And that's oftentimes really difficult because our ego wants to be right. Our ego wants to say, I know what to do. And, I'll share with you, it was really about a little over 4 years ago when I'd been struggling with my daughter's addiction for 10 years, for a decade. And it had gotten to the point where it was time for her to go into treatment again. And this is really what saved her life. But it was 3 months in treatment. And I took her 2 sons at the time, 3 and 4 years old.
Wow.
And I was, I'm a psychotherapist, so I'm working full days and taking the boys, in the morning, getting them up, getting them dressed. And I know moms do this all the time, work all day, get done. And then my whole life was them. But, I'd already done that. And I was living a life at the time with my ex-husband where we were very much jet setters and just going all over, traveling and a luxurious lifestyle. And all of a sudden, all of that came to a screeching halt. There was one night in particular where he was gone. He was at a conference and I was home alone. I had just gotten the boys and they were emotionally just struggling so much. They'd just come out of chaos.
Oy.
And I'm there, trying to get them to go to sleep. And I'm so exhausted. I've got my head against the nightstand in between their 2 twin beds, and I'm stroking their backs and trying to get them to relax and fall asleep. And they finally do. And I go into my bedroom and I'm so mad. I'm literally furious. Like I felt very abandoned at that time by my ex-husband. And it really did end up becoming the end of our marriage. But at that moment, I'm like, I don't want any of this. This is not the life I signed up for. Everything that I was doing that seemed fun or exciting or meaningful had switched. And what was truly meaningful was taking care of these 2 little boys. And I mean, I was just crying and angry. And all of a sudden it was like this feeling just came through me. And it was like, you've been pushing your way of how things, quote unquote, should be and what they should look like. And you just have to surrender. Like you have to surrender. To me, I call it the divine. It could be for other people, the higher power, universe, God. And I just said, I literally hit my knees and I was like, I can't do this anymore. I can't do it. I can't keep trying to push my way. And it was the moment that I started surrendering that I just had this beautiful peace come over me. And I woke up at 3:00 in the morning, I remember, after going to bed that night, and I had the most peace I'd experienced in years.
Wow.
And what was really interesting as a result of that, all these amazing things started coming into my life. I was like, one day I was in my office and I was thinking about, gosh, how do I get back into radio? Because I loved radio and I'd been a guest on a local radio station. And literally 3 minutes later, there's a knock on my door and it was my producer, my not yet then producer, who came in. He said, hey, I was just thinking about you. And I was just wondering if you'd ever thought about doing your own radio show. And, that was the beginning of so many amazing things for me. It was the beginning of my own radio show and podcast, The Spark. I ended up writing a book, The Spark, Igniting Your Best Life, having so many amazing contacts, doing a documentary film with amazing thought leaders and luminaries on this planet. So to answer your question, going back to surrender, what we have to do is we have to get our own egos out of the way and realize what we're doing is we're not being weak and saying, I don't care what happens to me or someone else can walk over me. We're not surrendering to something negative. We're surrendering to a power greater than us and really trusting life or trusting that higher power or the universe to have our back, to take care of us, and to know that life is showing up for us and it will continue to guide us as we surrender to it. So it's really a beautiful, empowering when you can step into that trust, when you can step into that knowingness. And honestly, Orion, miracles begin to happen then. To me, that's what surrender is.
Yeah. I had similar experience when I was manifesting my soulmate, when I was just on my knees saying, God, I can't do it anymore. And within 48 hours, I met him. And then 9 days later, he proposed on a hot air balloon in Vegas. And I said no. But then 9 months later, he proposed again. And I said yes. And we are happily married now. So I understand that. And I also understand that it's not enough to surrender. It's not a one and done.
Oh, no. Yeah. Oh, my God. No.
Because we go back to ego. We go back to control. We go back to it's my way or the highway. So when we're at that state, how do we handle that?
Such a good point, because I feel like I've got clients constantly that are saying to me, like, when are we done? Like not when are we done with therapy or when are we done with life coaching, but when are we done having to keep putting effort in? And it's like, as long as there's breath in your body, we're going to have to keep being aware of this. So for me, Orion, what I do is a daily practice. When I wake up in the morning, this is before I get out of bed. I have one hand on my heart and one hand on my belly or my gut. You could call it, your lower chakra, your third chakra. And I'm literally just inviting in the divine. For me, I'm surrendering that day. I just say, it's like thy will be done. And this is not about religion by any means. It's about saying, okay, universe, life, God, whatever you want to call it, that today I'm intentionally going to be conscious and aware of my ego. I'm going to be conscious and aware of trust and trusting the day to unfold as it should. So it's really about intentionality, and it's about how we start our day. What I've experienced as a result of this beautiful practice is that then, I start that day with peace. I start that day with being able to relax into the knowingness that no matter what happens, and it's not about life being perfect. And I think that's an important point as well. Because I imagine, as you know, too, we can surrender, and life is going to keep showing up exactly as it does. So there's still difficulties, there's still challenge, yet we meet those challenges in a very different way when we're in a surrendered state. We're able to address things with a calm. We're able to address things not in a reactive state, but in a responsive state, which is very different. So it's really a beautiful tool. And so what we're doing is we're cultivating the art of surrender. It's something that we continue to show up. We continue to work on enhancing. And that's just it. You're exactly it. There's no one and done. It just becomes part of our spiritual practice. Yes.
I've been very much in the opposite of surrender lately. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. We just had to move we lived in LA. We spent some time in Israel. And now we just moved to Florida on Wednesday with a toddler, and having my mom who doesn't speak English with us. And it's been intense. And I had guests in the first weekend. So it's been so intense, and it's been hard to be in a place of surrender because I wanted everything to be so perfect and beautiful for everyone. And I wanted to be the perfect daughter and the perfect mom and the perfect host and the perfect wife and blah, 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 blah. And I feel like only this morning I was like, I'm just going to take a break and take a super long shower and pamper myself because I'm tired.
Yes. Oh my gosh. That's so much energy and so much pressure on you.
Yeah.
To perform. And the word perfect, right? I mean, it's just like there's something that alleviates. It's like this pressure valve, and we alleviate all this pressure when we surrender into ourselves, because part of that surrender is this knowingness that I'm enough. It's this surrender into, gosh, I already am. Just by my intention, my love, the energy that I put out, I'm enough as I show up as a partner and a mom and a daughter. And I can erase the perfectionist piece. I can surrender to that place in my heart that knows I'm showing up the best way I can in each moment. And I think when we do that too, we're better able to take care of ourselves because we're really in touch with exactly what you're just saying. Like, wow, I really need to go take a really long shower and take care of me. Because it's when we do that we're able to truly show up in a much more resourced way with the people that we love and with, humanity at large.
Yeah, that's what's important. It's not important how many yummy items are on the table. It's important that I'll be happy because it affects everyone.
Yeah,
because if I serve so many, like I serve a luxurious meal and I'm all like, then what's the point?
Yeah, exactly. It's like if you're showing up and you're stressed out, but all the food tastes delicious, it's not going to be as delicious with your particular energy or vibration, your frequency being, in stress or anxiety. And so whatever the food offerings are, I think it becomes more delicious. And sometimes we don't even notice the food when we're in our joy.
That's so true. So beautiful. So you call yourself a lover of life, a lover of people. And you've been like that since you were a small child. How can you maintain that state of being a lover when you see bad things happen and you notice bad people? And it's undeniable that there are some people that are bad and are doing bad things. And yes, even bad people have light in them, blah, blah, blah. But right now they're doing something that might hurt us or our families or the world or the environment. How do you handle that? How do you bring love into those places?
Yeah, great question. Because I don't think this is about rose-colored glasses or putting our head in the sand. It's not about ignoring what's going on in the world. So I think that's important. And I think it's important that we don't really succumb to all this fear-mongering. Mm-hmm. I think people can get way too addicted to the news and the media and all this negative programming. So
this is what it is. It's programming. Because when people are at a state of fear, you can do whatever to their subconscious and it will take it.
Yep.
Like they will receive whatever you tell them. They actually did I think it was the KGB where they did an experiment and they took people and they put them in a locked place and terrified them. So they were in an extreme state of fear. And then they told them all kinds of things. And 2 months later, they came and they said, you know what? We lied to you. And the people that received so much brainwash for the last 2 months in a state of fear didn't believe them. They couldn't conceive the fact that it was a lie. They just refused. So, and that's what's happening in the media. They put people in a state of extreme fear and they broadcast fear 24/7 and fear only. And then they tell people whatever they want them to believe in.
Right. So we have this world culture right now of fear. And I'm also a trauma specialist. So I do work with people that have been through horrific things. And if I focused and put my energy in experiencing those things, or, you know what I'm saying, taking on that energy, I couldn't do my job. Mm-hmm. There's no way. So I think the way that we cultivate a reserve and we are able to tap into that sense of love is coming up with rituals where we're nurturing our hearts. And part of that ritual is tuning in to your heart and not tuning in to social media. I tell people, if you've got to watch the news, okay, 15 minutes or something in the middle of the day, great. But don't start your day with news and don't end it. Because what happens then is we're just feeding that fear mongering inside of us. We're bringing up our own anxiety, and that's not helping us to be centered. And to become heart centered, I think, is so essential. And so, having a morning routine where what you're doing is cultivating a sense of groundedness. Like I said, you could start with a surrender practice.
What's a surrender practice?
That's the one I told you about, with your hand on your heart, your hand on your gut.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
And starting the day with that. Mm-hmm. And moving into the next part of your day, you could do this for an hour, you could do a half an hour, depending on your time. But really just starting with 10 minutes of exercise where you're getting your blood pumping. Maybe you're doing, you could do 100 jumping jacks, whatever it is that you want to do, getting your body moving. And then I invite people to do 10 minutes of meditation. And a great, grounding meditation is just sitting with your back against the sofa. You're sitting on the floor And you're just breathing into feeling your body's contact with the floor. You're just grounding like into that root chakra, because that's a place where we can feel really safe and connected. And again, you can invite, whether it's your experience of whatever your higher power is, the divine, God, the universe, and you're just feeling that connection. So after that 10 minutes, what I really encourage people to do is then 10 minutes of writing, which is where you're writing down everything you're grateful for in that day. And it doesn't matter if it's everything you were grateful for the day before, and the day before, and the day before. It's just feeling into it as you're writing it. And some days it's like, I am so thankful that I get to wake up in this warm bed, that I get to wake up beside the love of my life. I get to hug and nuzzle into my beautiful dog. I'm so thankful and grateful that when I open these curtains, even on a rainy day like today is here in Colorado, I'm able to just let the whole house flood with light. It doesn't have to be the huge boom booms in life that we're grateful for. I'm grateful for hot water every single day, knowing how many people don't have hot water. I could look out my window right now and these beautiful pink tulips are getting ready to bloom. The buds have finally come up, and it's like, I am so grateful for the beauty of that. That's how we start cultivating that mindset and heart set. And so it doesn't matter. I'm not saying it's not important what's going on. I'm not saying put your head in the sand, but you don't have to dictate your happiness by what's going on outside of you, because circumstances are going to happen and life is going to continue to change. And tune into your heart, tune into that connection to the divine. And then that's what you're bringing into your day and truly to the world.
Yeah. Because our brains are conditioned from prehistorical times to look for the saber-toothed tiger, to look for danger. We like to look for danger. We like to see danger because then we are protected. It's just that now the danger is not always real. Not everything that is broadcast is a real danger to us because we are right here, right now. We are safe. Everything's okay. But it's almost like an addiction to fear. It's an addiction to bad news.
Right. Exactly. And that's just it. We get an adrenaline hit when we hear the headlines, right?
It's like watching a good movie, and then we have all those emotions. It seems like something is happening, but nothing is really happening except our cortisol levels are going up, and it's not helping us.
Right. We get this adrenaline dump, right? And our fight or flight kicks in. And so, it is true. Like our brain is hardwired with this natural negativity bias. That's exactly what you're talking about. It's prehistoric caveman brain, if you will, that's hardwired within us to help keep us safe. And so it's not about that's something that's, quote unquote bad. That's a lovely part that's helped us to survive. And yet we need to really be intentional about focusing on the good, on the positive, on the resources within us, because it's also a principle in physics that what we focus on expands. Mm-hmm. So if we're focused or hyper-focused on fear and what's wrong in the world, we're just going to keep that adrenaline dump going and that cortisol flowing, and we're going to be in that state of panic and fear.
And that's the irony, because when we focus on those bad things, we feel like we're doing something. We are involved in some way, but actually we are not doing anything good. We are contributing to the negative energy of the collective consciousness.
Exactly. And so it's essential, I think. And that's why, one of my messages really is to people around how essential your own healing is. Ooh. And how essential just taking care of your heart and soul are, because that is then what you're contributing. I mean, there truly is this collective consciousness. And so what vibration do you want to enter into your day with? And what do you want to contribute during your day? An old book that Gerald Jampolsky wrote is Love is Letting Go of Fear.
Nice.
And that's really what it's about. It's about focusing on the love. How do I experience love in this day? How do I more fully inhabit my heart? And, one of the ways that I think people can really access this as well, and this is around cultivating, literally, I call it befriending yourself, how you can befriend yourself and begin this process of healing, is to really start your day with 3 essential questions. And one of those being, how can I take care of myself in this day?
So important. So important.
Yeah, because a lot of our fear comes from the unknown. When our brain doesn't know what to predict, life right now and the world is so unpredictable. That's part of what can perpetuate that fear. And yet none of that is happening now. Like you just said a few moments ago, right now in the present moment, I'm safe, I'm well, things are really good. And so it's reeling ourselves in to this 24 hours and saying, okay, what do I need to do to take care of myself today? And it might be eat nutritious food or exercise. And just like you said, it might be I'm going to take a really hot bath or a shower. I'm going to pamper myself. Maybe one of the ways I take care of myself today is I'm going to listen to uplifting content. I'm going to listen to my favorite music that just makes my heart sing. Those are the ways I can take care of myself. And we write those down. So we're like really intentional about carrying through with them. And then the second C is how do I connect today? And that's how do we, in this 24-hour period, make connections with the people that we love, an old friend you haven't spoken to for years, or an aunt that you really care about. It's the ability to reach out and connect because we're interconnected beings and we need one another. We're interdependent. And then the third C being, how can I be creative today? So that we're tapping into that sense of flow. And we don't have to be artists or we don't have to be writers. It's really around, what can I do that gives me that sense of timelessness when I step into that creative place? So it could be, I'm going to I'm going to make a song list, let's say, of 10 of my very favorite songs on Spotify that make me feel joy. And I'm going to dance in my living room, when nobody's watching. Or maybe I will put on, something that uplifts me and I'm going to do an adult coloring book or, a mandala coloring book or it could be painting. It could be, I'm just going to be in the creative flow of singing and just letting lyrics come to me. I mean, there's so many different things we can do. And maybe being creative today is, what can I do that's different that I don't usually do? Maybe I'm going to walk it a different way, as I take my dog for a walk, or I'm going to be creative in the way that I'm going to go in the backyard and really notice what's coming up in spring right now. So it's just creating, right? It's creativity is I'm creating in a new way in this day.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. So the first one is, how do I care for myself today? The second one is, how can I connect better today? And the third one is, how do I tap into my creativity today?
Yes.
Wow. These are powerful questions. And I think I'm going to use them. I think I'm going to make a poster.
Wonderful.
It's beautiful. It's really cool.
Thank you.
No, thank you. Really cool.
And they really are. They're game changer questions that help us, because we really do. I mean, what's beautiful too is that we really do have the power to choose what we focus our attention on. Mm-hmm. Viktor Frankl, who wrote the book Man's Search for Meaning, he was an Auschwitz survivor. One of his quotes, and this isn't word for word, but an approximation is like, they can take everything from us, but the one thing we always have is our ability to choose our own attitude.
Yes.
To choose one's own way.
Yeah. And I heard an interview from a 90-some-year-old Auschwitz survivor who's a therapist. And she said that we need to break free from the concentration camp in our mind because we put the bars on it and we can break free.
Love that.
Yeah. Super powerful.
Yeah. So powerful. So one of the things that I have when I do my workshops, and oftentimes just in speaking presentations, I'll invite the audience to look at something across the room, and then to look at something midway across the room, and then to look in their own laps and to say to them, were you able to pay attention to those things? And they all say yes. And it's like, how awesome. You have the ability to choose what you give your attention to.
Yeah, it's our reticular activating system. So when you think about red, you'll see red. You won't see the green. Like you said, what you focus on, that's where your energy is going to go to.
Right. Which reminds me then, one of the things that I talk about in my book, and with my life coaching clients all the time, one of the activities I love to give is a 30-day journaling activity, which is around, we can program our reticular activating system, which is that part of our brain that notices things, to focus on what we want to focus on. Mm-hmm. So if I can share a story with you, when I took this course, gosh, it's been like 10 years ago, on understanding the reticular activating system, I decided, well, I'm going to do this journaling exercise that we learned about for 30 days because I wanted to say to my clients, yeah, I've done this and I know it's amazing. And I like to do that with all the techniques that I use, that I have used them myself. So I know that they work. So what I started doing, and what the instructor had said, is think about something in your life that could really, if you had a certain mindset about it, it could really enhance your life. And I want you to blow it up out of the water. Well, it took me a while to think about it. And ironically, something that had felt always like a real positive for me, because I'm very driven and I'm the oldest kid in my family. And so I've always been, I was a single mom for 5 years, put myself through graduate school as a single mom.
You're like a superwoman.
I just, driven to the next thing. And part of that, when I thought about where that behavior came from, I was able to rewind to being 13 years old and my parents going through a really, really awful, bloody divorce. And the wounding that happened during that time was that I had this belief that really got hardwired for a long time, that was, nobody's there for me. I have to do it all on my own.
Ooh, that's good and bad.
Yeah. So while there was a positive behavior from it, I think the negative thing is I didn't rely on other people. I didn't allow people to show up for me in the same way that I'm telling you in the last decade I have.
That's hard. That's a lot of pushing upstream.
Well, and it was a lot of unconscious programming, right? It had happened so long ago, and that's the way our mind works. Going through that trauma, that belief became very unconscious.
Yes.
And so when I started doing this exercise to blow it out of the water, like she said, I said, okay, I'm completely loved and supported by the universe. And the exercise is you write that affirmation, the same one, every night for 30 days. And then underneath it, you write down the evidence that showed up during that day to support it.
Oh, that's good. Wow.
Talk about training your brain to notice things. And the thing was, what's interesting, Orion, is that so many of those things were already happening. When the first week I started doing that activity, I was like, wow, I really get a lot of loving messages from my girlfriends. I have such wonderful girlfriends, and they are, continually giving me these sweet messages. I love you, and I'm thinking of you. And I was like, that is so wonderful. And then the little things, of course, start showing up, like how kind people are, and people letting you in, letting me in on traffic, or just being really generous and having lovely conversations.
I am completely supported by the universe. That was the affirmation.
I am completely loved and supported by the universe.
Loved and supported.
And then little things started happening. Like in 1 week, I had 2 different baristas at this coffee place I frequented give me free coffee. Like they were just like, we just love when you come in and you're just so much sunshine. And I mean, it was so cool. But then the biggest thing that happened that just blew the lid off of all this and really changed my life forever was it was a couple weeks into this process. And my daughter and I had gone up to Estes Park for the day, and we came back, and my basement of this new house, it was new to me. It was an old, like 1940s home. I had completely spent most of my savings to remodel it. And we came home and the basement had flooded.
Ugh.
The old water heater had rusted out, and water just during the day had been dumping into the basement, which, the new rug, the new pad, everything was soaked. And so I go outside, and my neighbors are out there, one catty corner across the street and right next door. And I just said, oh my gosh, people were all outside. It was this sunny afternoon. I said, I just need help. My basement's flooded. And the next thing I know, people are over with shop vacs and fans, and people are really helping me. And then there's a knock on the door, and I had a girlfriend and her husband who lived about 4 houses down, and they could see people coming into the house and like, what's going on? I said, oh my gosh, the basement's flooded. She goes, I'll be right back. And she came back about 15 minutes later and handed me $1,000 check.
Oh, wow.
And she said, you can pay me back when you need to. I know you've spent all this money on this house and don't have the money right now, but you need a water heater. And my husband has a truck. Let's go pick it up and we'll get it fixed so you guys have hot water tomorrow.
That is so cute. Wow.
Oh my gosh. And so it was like, from that point, it changed my paradigm. It changed my internal script around, oh my gosh, I am completely loved and supported by the universe. And people really do and always have shown up whenever I've needed them. It's just around having that true clarity around allowing them in. And so it changed my relationship with my mom. I started really allowing her to show up. And I mean, she's truly one of my very best friends to this day. And my girlfriends were like, oh my God, thank you for coming to us for help because we're always the ones coming to you. Yeah. And how beautiful, it's just opened up this whole world of experience. So again, I think these things are so essential. And it's really from doing those kind of activities where we're shifting our focus to what we want in our lives instead of focusing on what we don't want or what we don't like.
That's beautiful. What are some of your favorite healing modalities?
I would say, right instantly I knew because the number one for me is meditation. That's one of my, I guess, deepest, and I'm literally talking about 20 minutes a day. I'm a part of a group where we meditate Tuesday and Thursday nights for an hour. It's for me when I access the divine, and I do that through many different ways. I mean, I can do that 20-minute sitting meditation, like I told you, like doing that first 10 minutes of really grounding into the earth, and then lying 10 minutes in Shavasana, which is that yoga pose where you're lying just flat on your back with your palms up and just allowing that to integrate. And another way that I really access that, and I guess it's meditation or it's connection to the divine for me, is I go in the morning out into my backyard and put my feet on the earth. It's like no matter what the day is, and just look up, soak in the sky, and always, no matter what time of year it is, the birds are singing, you can hear the birds, and it's just a beautiful way to connect with life and the earth. So those are things that are really fortifying to me that keep me in that place. And I do think it's really being aware of gratitudes. And, it's also what I do at the end of my day that matters. So I have what I call the bookends to my day. It's doing all those things in the morning. And then at night, really focusing on, and I encourage people to do this with a stationary object that can become also a visual cue and reminder. I had this beautiful orange rock that a girlfriend gave me from the creek outside her home in Arkansas. And orange is my favorite color. So having that on your nightstand and you pick it up at the end of the day and you're holding on to it and you say, what was the best part of today? What was the best thing that happened? Wow. You're bringing that up in your mind and experiencing it with all of your senses again. And it's powerful for two reasons. One, yes, it's training our reticular activating system then to focus on seeing more things that were the best part of the day the next day. And it's that mind that we were talking about. It's like negative experiences are like Velcro in the brain. Our brain's like, yep, got that. You don't need to touch the hot stove twice to know that it's going to burn you because your brain files that away. And positive experiences are like fried eggs on a Teflon pan. They just slide right out because our brain's like, I don't need that to survive. So when we bring back up this wonderful memory again, it's like we can marinate on those good feelings. And then not only do we feel good in that moment because our brain's experiencing it happening now, again, and whatever we bring up in our brain, if we're bringing up fear of the future, we're like, oh my gosh, what if, we start feeling anxious. It's not happening now, but our brain experiences it as now. Same thing as if you're ruminating about the past. It's not happening now, but I'm having a physiological and, emotional experience of it as if it's happening now. So the beautiful thing is we can pull up also what we want to focus on and what makes us feel good, what makes us feel centered, what makes us feel loved. And we experience it, our brain experiences it as happening now. So we're getting all the positive endorphins. And it's literally carving neural pathways that are hardwiring our brain to notice the good and to feel good.
Yes. What brings you joy?
Oh my gosh. There's so much that brings me joy. And I just have to laugh because I was just talking to my partner and he was talking to a friend of his online and they heard me laugh as I was having a conversation. And my partner said, she can stub her toe and it brings joy. And while I don't know that that's true, I feel so blessed. I feel like I experience so much joy every day. And what brings me joy is being in the present moment. I would say that that's one of the things that I can only say really good at. I think I've practiced a lot. So I'm not someone who worries about the future. I don't live in the past. And so if we're open to this moment unfolding, there is so much joy here. So it's the conversation in the moment. It's how beautiful things look right now as I'm looking outside and these beautiful, vibrant leaves are starting to unfurl from their buds in the trees and everything just looks crisp and beautiful. So I think what brings me joy is to be right here in the moment. Of course, like there's heightened joy when I'm with my grandchildren or my daughters or my partner, with my wonderful friends, when I'm listening to music or dancing or singing or reading a book that brings me joy. So being with you right now, Orion, brings me so much joy. I'm
Yay.
loving our conversation so much, and you've got such beautiful energy. It's just, I'm just really loving being here.
Yeah, thank you. And as you were talking about looking outside your window, I'm looking outside my window. We're in this temporary vacation rental, and I see grass and I see the river and I see birds and squirrels and ducks and just beautiful, beautiful nature. And that as we speak, I hear you and I look at the beautiful, beautiful sky and the clouds and the trees and the leaves. And it's just so beautiful. And I love what you're doing with living in the present moment, because there is nothing other than the present. And every time we get in fear mode, anxiety mode, worry mode, we just need to go back to the here and the now, and from a place of being more grounded and connected to who we are, everything is going to be better and feel better. We won't be reactive, but we can be active with our reaction to everything that is going on.
Yeah, I love that. And I think that you've really articulated that really well, because it is, again, it's being in that place where it's not just being immediately reactive. If we're in a place of presence, we can say, oh, wow, that's how that landed with me. And then we can respond from there.
Yes.
And I think as we get more and more in touch with our essence, my brand and what I bring through, my film, that's a documentary that's going to be coming out when sparks ignite, and my book, The Spark, Igniting Your Best Life.
I can't wait to see it.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. All of that, what it's speaking to is the spark is our essence. And the essence of who we are is pure joy. And it doesn't mean it has to be this explosive joy that we're jumping up and down. It can be this subtle, beautiful sense of joy that's just this glow within our own beings. And so oftentimes what we have to do, and I think, this is our continual work, is how do we excavate that spark, that light that is us? And it can get covered up with circumstances and difficulties. And so we have to be conscious about doing the work to excavate that light, to allow that light to emanate and shine. And so it truly is, it's a daily practice. It's the best gig in town. It's one of those things where we can access it at any moment that we choose. And the more that we cultivate it, the more that's available to us. So the more that we practice being in that sense of joy. And I'm telling you, I, of course, still have difficult things happen, and life, presents challenges. So it's not that those things are ever going to stop happening for any of us. When we are able, though, to continually access that place of joy, we don't have to fear those things happening. We can know that we're going to be coming from a place of so much more resiliency and a depth of being able to hold them. And ultimately, I think, what we strive for is to get to a place where we go, oh, wow. Yeah, we can feel the pain or we can feel the sorrow. And yet that's not the definition of us.
Beautiful.
That our light is so much bigger than that. Our love is so much bigger than that. And so we can hold it, and then we can breathe through it and transform it and transmute it. And we keep returning to the love.
Yes, definitely. Before we say goodbye for now, and this was a very fun and lovely and beautiful and just good conversation. What are your 3 top tips to living a stellar life, and where can people find you?
Okay. Wow. Top 3 tips to living a stellar life. I would say number 1, bookends of your day. Show up for yourself. Allow yourself to be priority in your own life. And the better you take care of yourself, truly, the better you're able to take care of others. So know that your healing matters. I would say another tip for leading a stellar life is what we've been talking about, and breathing into the present moment, allowing yourself to be in the present moment, because it's from there that spontaneous joy, spontaneous happiness, all those things arise. So whether it's through breathing or meditation, through exercise, bringing yourself right here and right now. And then I would say, truly, part of the thing that brings us incredible joy in a stellar life is connecting to others. And even if you're an introvert, being able to let that flow, that connection and that communication flow, knowing that even when it's over Skype, like right now with you, Orion, it's like there's no space or time or distance. We're right here together. I can totally feel us heart to heart. And that's what we need to make sure that we're doing, that we're connecting with others as we connect more deeply with ourselves. And people can get a hold of me and find me on StephanieJames.world. And on there, you can sign up for my Igniting Your Best Life group that meets the 2nd and 4th Tuesdays of every month. And that's a beautiful offering. My speaking events are on there. You can access my book through there and my individual coaching packages. I love doing transformational coaching and love seeing the changes that we can make together. And so people can get on for a 20-minute free exploratory call with me and access that through the website and access the trailer to the film. That's also there. So StephanieJames.world is the portal for all of that.
Thank you. And thank you, Stephanie James. You are incredible. I loved having you here. And people didn't know we were laughing a lot in the beginning of this conversation, which was really a fun way to begin.
Yeah.
Thank you for your joy, and thank you for your spark, and thank you for who you are being in the world.
Thank you, Orion. What a joy meeting with you, and what an honor. Thank you so much for having me on your show.
Thank you, and thank you, listeners. Remember, show up for yourselves, breathe into the present moment, connect to others, and have a stellar life. This is Orion. Till next time. Thank you for joining me on my mission to light people up and change lives around the world. I hope today's conversation inspires you to step up, go after the life of your dreams, and be who you want to be. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to go to stellarlifepodcast.com for show notes, transcripts, and other cool stuff. And please subscribe, review, and help spread the word by sharing us on Facebook and Twitter. Have a lovely day, and I'll catch you on the next episode.